So Manchester United's strategy early on in the transfer window seems pretty obvious. Sign attacking players, forwards that can make a difference in the final third of the pitch. Established players. I'm of course talking about Cunha and Mbeumo. But when you do that, when you sign a lot of new attackers for a new team, you do need to be quite careful. You need to make sure that these players can link and gel with each other, and we've covered that in a recent video, how Cunha and Mbeumo could actually work really nicely together. But you also have to consider how it's going to affect the team that they are moving to, and the players, their new teammates at their new club. For example, we are already all assuming that Bruno Fernandes is now going to have to play a deeper position, so he won't be in one of these two positions here, he will more likely be a central midfielder next season. It's also probably going to have an impact on Amad and where he plays as well. I wouldn't expect him to get into the team ahead of Mbeumo or Cunha in the 2-10 positions, so that means that Amad is probably going to have to play here as a right wing back. The question is, does that actually work? Does this work? Mbeumo in the right 10 and Amad in the right wing back position? Let's have a look. So before we can talk about these two actually as a duo, we need to talk about them as individuals, their attributes, their strengths, how they like to play, their habits on the football pitch. And we're going to start off with Mbeumo because he is the new player coming into the new environment. And I think with Mbeumo, it's pretty obvious what his strengths are. It's the pace and it's the power, particularly in transition. Athletically, this guy is an absolute freak. I think he is a lot quicker than what a lot of people realise. He is absolutely rapid when he moves forward on the counter-attack. He's also really, really strong as well. He's got a huge upper body frame and uses it very effectively, regularly sort of shrugging off and holding off opposition defenders. And of course, he's doing this in the Premier League, so there's no question of whether he can adapt to the physicality of the new league or not. That's not going to be a problem for Mbeumo because he's already doing it in the Premier League. The other thing that he's been doing regularly in the Premier League for the past few seasons is carrying the ball forward. So picking the ball up in these situations and driving forward into space, looking to get at the heart of the opposition defence. Something else he's been looking to do is be creative. He had the highest expected assists in the Premier League last season. That's a creative player, but also a goal scorer. A goal scorer. Lots of goals in the Premier League last season. He got lots of goals the season before that as well. And Mbeumo is a very good finisher. Now, when we talk about Amad, there are going to be some similarities, but also some differences. A difference will be that Amad is more of a tight space player, someone who wants to play in close areas where it's nice and tight and compact, and his footwork, his control, his agility, and his balance is going to give him an advantage over the opponent. Amad is great in positions like this, where he's got multiple players around him, and he is going to operate in these little tight spaces. He's going to twist and turn to move through. This is something that Amad does very, very effectively. Something else he does well is combine in these positions. So let's say you've got a central midfielder near him, a centre forward, perhaps another attacker. Amad loves combining in these positions, using flicks and tricks to move the ball forward. He is a linking player. He's a player who wants to get close to his teammates and combine with them. And of course, in the final third, he was also Manchester United's best finisher in the Premier League last season. And also, he's incredibly versatile. So far, it's all looking really good. We've got two very talented players that can play together on the right-hand side of the attack. But we do need to address the elephant in the room. There is a risk here that they are the same profile or a similar profile that want to play in the same position. You see, in their heat map last season, they both preferred to play in wide positions. This is Amad's heat map. This is Mbeumo's heat map. Back to Amad's, back to Mbeumo's. They're pretty much the same thing. Also, in terms of their chance creation zone, they're very, very similar. This is where Amad created chances from. This is where Mbeumo created chances from. You see the similarity here. They both like to pick the ball up in this initial wide position and then carry inside. That could be a problem because they can't both do it at the same time. Now that, of course, brings us on to the main question of this video. Can they actually work together? And to answer that question, we need to go to the tactical board and we need to look at the approach that Manchester United use. Not just in the first phase over here, but also in the middle phase, in the attack, and also in transition, because it is very, very important in this particular scenario. So we're going to start off with United in the first phase and look at Amad in this position here, and also Mbeumo up here. And you will notice straight away the Manchester United shape. We've got two centre-backs either side of the goalkeeper. We've got one centre-back playing in midfield with another central midfielder. We've got our wing-backs in these two wide positions, with this one being Amad. We've got an inside forward here. We've got a midfielder here. We've got Mbeumo here, and then we've got the striker. Whoever that is going to be next season, that I don't really know. Does this work? Does this work for Amad and Mbeumo? Well, in theory it does, because the idea for Manchester United in these positions is to draw players towards us, lots of players towards us, to create space higher up the pitch. And if we go back to the strengths of the two earlier, Amad is a tight space player and Mbeumo thrives in large spaces. so that makes sense. Amad plays in his deeper position over here, where the job is to play in a crowded area, where you're drawing the opposition into these positions. Amad is a player capable of doing that. You're then getting Mbeumo in this position up here, where if we can work the ball to him, he's got a large space to cover. So that seems to suit the two profiles. Amad over here in the tight spaces, and Mbeumo up here in the large spaces. This same idea can also be applied to transitions as well, so when you win the ball back and quickly look to counter-attack, it makes sense to have the profiles this way round. Amad in a deeper position, where perhaps there is more of a focus on retention. Let's say the opposition are counter-pressing, try and squeeze nice and high to stop you in these positions. You need someone who can look after the ball and complete their passes, and we know that Amad can do that because he was doing it all of last season. His ball retention work was actually really good and really useful for Ruben Amorim. At the same time, whilst we're doing that, when we counter-attack, when we win the ball in this position, we initially keep it in this area here and look to play quickly. Again, we've got a large space for Bryan Mbeumo, and you can see in a clip like this, this is a man that you want with a large space because he can carry the ball forward, and he is more ruthless, I feel, than Amad. He's got more of a cutting edge in the final third. When Mbeumo attacks, particularly with large spaces, it feels more inevitable that he is going to score. So this is going to improve Manchester United in transition, because Amad can look after the ball in these areas, and his left foot could open up some really interesting passes inside the pitch. Perhaps we'll cover that another day. But also the transitioning space for Mbeumo, for Cunha on this side, whoever the striker is going to be. Manchester United, with Mbeumo in the attack and Amad slightly deeper, could be lethal in transition. So far, I would say that this is looking pretty promising. On goal kicks, we can draw players deep with Amad and create room for Mbeumo. In transitions, Mbeumo's got large spaces to attack. So early on, I would suggest the two of them can play together. The problem comes, or the questions come, I should say, when the play is a little bit slower, when you can't move quickly, when you can't quickly punch through the opposition, and you have to be a little bit more methodical with your approach. You have to try and find a way to break the opposition down. For example, like this, the opposition have lots of defenders behind the ball. Can Mbeumo here and Amad here work together in this position? Do they make sense on the right-hand side together? Well, first of all, we need to look at the Manchester United shape, and I want you to cast your minds back to the last game of the season, the really impressive win against Aston Villa. What we saw from United in that game was a slightly different shape to usual. See, as usual, we had our normal back three here, but we then played with a solo pivot, just one central midfielder in this position here, so that Bruno Fernandes could move a little bit higher into this role, and then we saw the two wing-backs playing much more advanced. So it was sort of a three along the back, a solo pivot in the middle, then sort of this line of five across here, and then the striker up front. The problem is, Amad and Mbeumo don't immediately make a lot of sense. You see, we've already spoken about the fact that they both want to receive the ball in this position here, they want to pick the ball up, and they both want to move inside. The problem is, for the sake of balance, you can't have two players doing the exact same job because it doesn't work. And particularly in the case of our new signing, Bryan Mbeumo, that makes things a little bit difficult. You see, he is not a player that receives the ball in here. This isn't where he has his first touches. His first touches centrally only come in transitions. When the player's a little bit slower, and Mbeumo is not someone who wants to receive the ball in that position because it's not his game. We know that he is quite inevitable when he receives the ball on the right-hand side. He isolates the defender, he comes inside and shoots. We can see that in his shot map. He's very, very good at doing that. It would be silly, in my opinion, for Amorim to try and change that. There's no need. He's doing something so well. Let's not overcomplicate what he's doing. So for me, the best solution for Amad and Mbeumo is for, in sustained attacks, to see more rotations. And I'm talking about Amad in this position here, our right wing back, during sustained, slow attacks, moving into a more central position in here, because I feel like his work in tight spaces, his close control, his linking work is just a little bit better. And then we're going to ask Bryan Mbeumo to move wider onto the right-hand side so that he can pick the ball up and again isolate the defender and do what he's done so well for the past 3 or 4 years, terrorising Premier League defences. Now you might think that this is a little bit unrealistic, to ask our wing-back to go into this position here and our inside forward to play on the touchline. But if you watched Manchester United closely over the past 12 months or so, you would have seen time and time again our wing-backs taking up more central positions. So I think we could see it again, and I think it could work. Mbeumo gets to play as a winger, he gets 2 attack players, and Amad gets to play inside, he gets 2 combine, and also is close to the opposition goal. It makes sense. So that's that, right? The two of them can play together. It is perfect, it is seamless, and Manchester United are going to be fine. These two are going to get on like a house on fire and just do amazing right from the start. Not quite. There are a couple of concerns with this. For example, just straight away, this isn't an easy position to get into. For Manchester United to have the freedom and the luxury of moving the wing back inside, first of all, we need to be good at controlling and sustaining the ball in these areas. and I'm not sure that we have that at this moment in time. It will take a little bit of time for us to get there. The other problem is that Amorim hasn't been particularly fluid with his Manchester United attack so far. He hasn't let his players roam about into different positions too much. I know we've seen the wing-backs inside, but it does feel like quite a rigid structure at times. We are going to have to see a change there, because both these players like coming inside, but they also both like going out wide as well. The best way to get the best out of both of them is to let them rotate, to let them move into different positions at different times. Because imagine you're this left back. That is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with, because 1 second you're picking up Ahmad, then it's Mbeumo. Different players, different skill sets, really, really difficult to deal with. The only other concern I have about how this works is the lack of right footer on the right side of the pitch. Now, it may not be a problem. For example, at Sporting, we saw Cunha and we saw Trincao on that side. They were both left-footed and they both played very well, and it worked for Amorim. The only concern for me at United is how reliant we've been on cutbacks this season. What we have seen is Manchester United getting into this position, sliding a ball into that position there, and then the right-footed cutback into that position, where the striker goes towards the goalkeeper and someone else arrives into this area here. If we are playing two left-footers down this side of the pitch, getting into that position there and then cutting back is going to be asking a lot of the weak foot. Now, Mbeumo and Ahmad aren't bad at using their weak foot, you know, they're quite complete players, but it's not smooth, it's not ideal. I do think we will see games where Diogo Dalot, for example, comes into the right wing-back role just to provide that greater balance. So to sort of wrap up, do I think Ahmad and Mbeumo can work together on the right-hand side? Yeah, I think they can. I think particularly in quick moving moments where Manchester United are punching through the pitch, Ahmad and Mbeumo, both on the right-hand side, is a dream, because that is so difficult for the opposition defence to try and deal with, right? It's a lot. It's a nightmare as a defender to try and stop those two running at you. During the slower moments, I do have a few more concerns, because I don't know that either of them are specialist 10s. I don't know that either of them are specialists in this zone of the pitch here. I think they both prefer to operate out wide. Therefore, for it to work, we are going to have to see fluidity. We are going to have to see a slight change from Amorim. He's going to need to let these two express themselves and interchange. And for two players to interchange effectively, it's probably going to take a little bit of time. It's not going to happen overnight. You know, in pre-season, these two probably won't immediately be amazing. Give it 6 months, maybe even 12 months before these two really understand each other's game and have a great synergy. It is going to take time. And I think particularly in the biggest games, we may see someone like Diogo Dalot brought back into the side on the right-hand side here, just to sort of shore it up. However, I think if given time, there is something here really, really exciting. I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to work from the start. I think it will take a little bit of time to get going, but I'm really, really intrigued here to see the idea, to see the plan. Because if we're signing a right-sided 10, it does suggest Ahmad at right wing-back, and Amorim will know that if it's his plan. And if it's his plan, he must have a plan in mind. He must have an idea, a way, or a picture in his head of how that is going to work. And I'm really intrigued to see how it's going to play out. I think this is something really interesting to watch in pre-season if we have Mbeumo in time. If not at the start of next season, tactically, this might be one of the most interesting parts of Manchester United's game for the next 12 to 18 months. And I cannot wait to watch it. But I'm going to have to, because he hasn't signed for the club yet, and United don't play for a while because it's the end of the season. So, yeah, that's all there is to it, really. Apart from that, I don't think there's anything left to say. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, get notifications on, and also leave a comment about how you think this can work. And, yeah, I'll see you in the next one.